Okay, ladies, it's nice having you here. Thank you, Anne, for joining us and for being a part of this production to raise awareness in Spartanburg for domestic violence. As you know, our state, South Carolina, has the dubious distinction of being on the top 10 list. And today, Connie, a survivor and now domestic abuse advocate, is here with us, and she wants to share a bit of her story with us. But before she does that, tell us, how do you feel about our statistics and the rating we have nationwide?
I think it's terrible. It's terrible that in this day and age that there's still domestic abuse and physical abuse and child abuse that's still going on and nothing's been done about it. Personally, I was abused as a child. I never had a husband who abused me because he knew I'd hurt him, but, but I was as a child for 3 years.
What we've discovered, and one of the things we're trying to do here today, is to figure out whether there's any connection between self-esteem and domestic violence. Any thoughts?
And self-esteem is definitely connected, because I have always had problems with my self-esteem. Not as a child, but once the abuse started afterwards.
Okay, okay. So Connie, you want to corroborate any
Right.
kind of...
So, I can relate to that, you know, because as a child, you really are not aware of self-esteem, you know. But, you know, as a young adult, well, in my reflection, in writing the book as we went back, I could see why I wasn't performing in school as well as I should, you know. And it had a lot to do with my self-esteem, you know, because I feel like I was torn down and broken down in the home by the very ones that were supposed to nurture me.
So as I was saying to you, Erin, our statistics in this country that's supposed to be the pilot of the world, we have horrible domestic violence statistics. And in this state, South Carolina, we are amongst the top 10 in the nation. I think we rank number 3, domestic violence and murders against women. What do you think of that as a young woman?
As a young woman, it's sad. It almost brings tears to my eyes knowing that this is her story and that this happened and that this is something that people deal with on a daily basis. My background is education, and I deal with a lot of young girls, and I deal with a lot of young boys, and knowing that some of them will grow up and have to deal with it, it's heartbreaking. It really is.
Yeah, I thought it was really, it was like shocking, very alarming when I saw that the statistics from last year's research said that every day 4 women die, 3 men die, rather 3 children, 1 man dies from this disease. And we have all these laws on the books. So it has gotten to the point where I think it has to be more of a community effort.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not something that can be legalized out of existence. We have got to become community watchmen.
Right.
Where I come to your door if I hear bam bam and I say, well, you know, something is going on here. Is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the ways we can eradicate this, or it will remain an epidemic in our country.
I think the problem is sometimes we live, our society today, we are kind of closed in, and we are, you know, well, that's not my business. I don't want to, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to, you know, go over there and you know, put my nose in something that's not you know, my problem to deal with.
And a lot of times we think it only happens in some neighborhoods and not in some neighborhoods.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know, so we figure it's not here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you said, awareness, I think is really important. Making sure people realize that it's not somebody else's problem.
Yes.
I mean,
it's a national problem.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there are people who I was maybe acquainted with that are dealing with it. I had no clue. You know, I just, because, you know, maybe we were just sort of, maybe we worked together. I, you know, saw them every once in a while at the coffee shop or something.
Right.
You know, they're not going to just come out and say, hey,
yes,
this is what I'm dealing with.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, making it awareness, knowing maybe things to look for.
And one of the things you said, like, is everybody's problem, because what people don't realize is that medically, the amount of treatment that is given on a daily basis to battered women in this country amounts to an astounding amount of money. Millions of dollars per state,
Yeah.
per year. And so I mean, those people who don't have health coverage, of course, they fall back on taxpayers.
Yeah.
So it's more than just your problem
Yeah.
and your crazy fellow
Yeah.
or man, or, you know. And then we have to think of the battered men too, because there are men out there who are battered. You know, and it's an overarching issue that we really have to call what it is,
Yeah.
and not pretend that it's somebody else's problem.
Well, and awareness and education even. I mean,
Yes.
teaching young
I
kids
agree.
how to handle your anger or
Yes.
teaching them how to
Yes.
handle themselves.
Right, and so the young girls would know when they're, what are the signs of an abusive relationship?
Yeah,
And that's not
exactly.
love, honey.
Yes.
You know.
Because, I mean,
To
Okay, so it says here that it's a social ill that must be prevented before it's cured. So I guess that means that you work on young people and teaching them how horrible domestic violence is before you work on trying to cure older people who've already gotten to the habit of being violent. Is that what
that, as well as working on the older folks, because what has happened with the older folks is that the idea that domestic violence occurs, to them it's a norm. They have come to accept it as a norm instead of realizing that it's an ill and a debilitating ill.
Right.
So, I mean, yes, we definitely want to start in the schools. Like yesterday, we met a young lady who is a teacher, and she said she would love to have us in her class, and she teaches high school.
Right.
Because she says it's prevalent there too.
Of course it is. Yes. Girls get beat up by their boyfriends,
Boyfriends
all the time. And some boys get beat up by their girlfriends too. You know?
Yep.
Because if people have not grown up in a calm, stable home, then they just think that
Awesome. Just keep reading.
getting
And what you
out of
just said is right
control.
up here. Because, watch the back.
Recording.
Okay. I've just finished reading this petition, and I want to sign it. I want to get a copy of the book. I want to do whatever I can to help stamp out domestic violence, because most violence in our community starts with domestic violence. Most people don't go out and start beating up on strangers. They start in their own family home.
And,
So-
and as a resident in South Carolina, what do you think of this petition, and how do you think it will position domestic violence
I think
as an
it-
occurrence here?
I think that anything we can do to get out the word that South Carolina leads the nation in domestic violence, and that we have to make more of an awareness. We've had efforts in our schools to stop bullying, but we need to have efforts in our home to stop bullying
Yes,
also.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carol, you think that domestic violence
Loudly.
as a crime and as the felony that it is, where in our communities do you think it happens most?
I think it happens everywhere. I have a friend who was murdered by her husband, and he was a very wealthy man. I know that it's not just in the ghetto, that it's everywhere, that it's all across all social classes. In every church, there's probably somebody who's a batterer. Who comes
Sitting
to
next to you on
church
the pew.
and prays and asks for forgiveness, but then continues to do it because it is an ill, and it's something that if people don't take a stand against it, it only gets worse, and it perpetuates into the second, and the third, and the fourth
Yes.
generation.
Oh, we appreciate you. I appreciate you sitting with me. So, Miss Carol, I appreciate you sitting with me today, having this conversation on how we can attempt to eradicate domestic violence and abuse in Spartanburg, South Carolina. As we know, it's an epidemic that transcends social classes, it transcends genders too, and it's something that we have to focus on in reality. It doesn't only happen, as you said, in the ghetto. It happens in every other upscale ghetto, if there's any such thing, but it happens all over.
It does.
Thank you so much for sitting with us today, and we
Okay.
appreciate your participation.
Well, I appreciate your getting the message out.
Thank you. All right.
This was, we didn't even plan on. Okay, we were here with Bernadette and Connie, And Bernadette has agreed to give us, as a young woman, what her views are on domestic violence as an occurrence, as a frequent occurrence in too many relationships and in too many homes across the nation, particularly here in South Carolina. Bernadette?
Me personally, I do not accept domestic violence, and I don't think it should be tolerated in any relationship, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or mother, father, just whatever the relationship may be. Me being a 28-year-old black female, my parents taught me that that was never in any shape, form, or fashion. Domestic violence is never good in any type way. And that if you're sensing that the relationship that you're in is leading to that, to get out. That you should not tolerate that, you should not accept it, you should stand your ground and let the person know that, you know, that's not right to do, or if it's towards you that you don't want that done to you, or if you see it done with anyone, you shouldn't want it done to anyone else. So with that being said, I think it should be stopped. I think a lot of people should be more aware of it so they know the signs of it so they can get out of it or try to get help or just remove themselves from the situation.
Thank you so much. Well said. Thank you as a young woman coming forward and being so candid about your feelings about this epidemic that continues to plague our state. Thank you, Bernadette.
You're welcome.
So, Mike, would you like to share with us your thoughts on domestic violence? What do you think of it? Any thoughts at all? Don't let me put words into your mouth.
Obviously, it's a significant issue, and in times I think it's hard for some people to fathom how it even happens. But the little I know about it, it seems to somewhat come up through the family. That people learn that somewhat through how they were brought up, and then perpetuate the occurrence, which is regrettable and shameful. But
Thank you.
Behavior.
Okay.
It's also, and I'm not an expert, trust me. I mean, what you said is valid. In a large part, it's learned behavior, but in another area, it's encouraged behavior, because the victims sometimes do not act the way they need to act to get away from it. They stay in it. So that even if you never learned it and you probably had a fit of rage one day and you decided you would smack your wife or your spouse or whatever around and you got away with it, it's something that you do and she accepts or he accepts and it goes on like that. And
Would you like to share with us some of your views on domestic violence? I don't know if you know of anyone personally.
No, I really don't. I'm not familiar with it, other than things I would see on TV or maybe read in the paper.
Right.
I have been fortunate.
Yes, you have been.
I really don't have a strong opinion on it, other than it's not a good thing.
Right.
And I guess because I haven't been exposed to it.
so what would you say to women, for example, if you knew one of the ladies sitting in your church pew is being abused, but because it's a shame, most people start off being ashamed that it's happening, and you happen to find out, she didn't tell you, you just happened to find out, what would you say to her, you think?
I think I would probably tell her that I would pray for her in her situation, and that help is always available. I know there is, normally in a city the size of Spartanburg, there would be shelters of some kind for women and children in abusive situations. I have heard, that sort of thing, of course. I would encourage her to get help. I don't know how she would respond knowing that I know. That might be difficult for her.
Well, one of the things I can say as somebody who has been doing this for a couple of months, if not years, the shelters are usually the last resort. And our message, hopefully, is to prevent people from even getting to the shelter stage.
To leave before.
Yes, we're hoping that we can encourage neighbors to be nosy. This is one time being nosy is a good thing. If you suspect, if you hear a commotion, don't hesitate and think that you're getting into somebody's business, because there are times when getting into that person's business saves a life. You know, and I know a lot of times too, people don't talk about it because they're so embarrassed. You know, they're so embarrassed, and even if they're getting and abuse is not only physical. You know, a lot of women get mental and emotional
Sure.
as well. I've come across women who have had the car taken from them, the bank account, funds transferred to another account, and they don't know until they swipe their credit cards at BJ's or something, and there's no money. So abuse encompasses all sorts of activities within a relationship. And another thing we're discovering too is that it's not only women. Men are also abused. Yes, by women too. By women. So, I mean, I don't want to take over your interview, but I would love to hear what you think of that, especially men being abused.
I'm surprised. I guess we always think of women as the weaker
Yes,
sex,
as the weaker
and
sex.
that it's usually a male dominant thing that would not, they wouldn't be abused just by their physical strength.
Yes.
However, I would think emotionally or mentally they could be abused, if I would think about it, I guess.
And they are abused physically too. They might not be standing toe to toe, but there are some women who lay in wait to get back at the man. So I'm going to shut off the recording and take another still.
Okay.
Thank you so
You're
much
not
for
going to
your
put on here that I'm
interview.
an abused person.
Oh no, absolutely not. Oh, but I'm glad we'll keep this on. And let me say this: the person we're interviewing right now, Anne, is not an abused person. She has never been abused, and she's not an abuse survivor in any way, shape, or form. She's just giving us her views as a resident of South Carolina. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not good at this now. Okay, today we have Juan with us, and Juan has agreed to come and talk with us about domestic violence in South Carolina. He understands that it's an epidemic in our state, and shamefully we continue to lead the nation in these statistics, the statistics of battery and the statistics of women who are murdered by their abusers. Juan, what are your thoughts on what I just said?
I think you're doing a wonderful thing, you know, to defend everybody's rights, because even women and men are equally create an image of God, and we have to respect each other and love each other. I think we have to change some men's that's they believe that they have more power than
Yes.
women, and we are in 2014, you know. Every woman has the right to have their thoughts, their things, and their freedom, you know. And men need to understand that domestic violence is not good for us, because if we continue doing that, you know, it's gonna pass to our generation, you know. And one of the things, I'm agreed on everything you say, you know. We have to step it up and start to see what's going on in this state, you know. They're still out there, you know, that we need to fight against others that they don't believe in that those domestic is bad, you know. And I'm glad, you know, I've seen people, you know, coming out from the shadows to speak, to scream, you know, before everything get worse. I think as a man, I'm Hispanic, you know, in my country, this type of situation still continue, and even in my parents, you know. But I think it's like a change. It passed to different levels, you know. We need to stop it, and we need to be really humans. We need to be really humans, and we need to be really brothers. That we don't believe in violence. We don't believe in hitting each other. I think we have to do communication, and we have to show the true love. You know, that we have to love each other, I think.
And if I could ask you, what do you think domestic battery, domestic violence in a home, what effect it has on the children in the home?
It got really bad affected, you know. At the beginning, I was saying, you know, they can that can pass to their children, and they will think that that's right, but no,
Yes.
that's wrong, you know. And it can separate families.
Yes.
It can separate families. I don't believe in domestic violence. I don't believe it. Zero tolerance to domestic violence, because it's a suffering, you know, and we need to start to show our children that the best option is to communicate as humans, as sons of God, you know, and we need to learn that everything that is happening, we need to stop it now. Some out there, you know, that think that it's okay to hit women, it's okay to hit your sons. But I think that's not true. The definition of love. The definition of love, you have to communicate, you have to understand each other, and even because it can be a little thing, domestic violence, but look what happened in our world right now, you know. As a domestic violence is the definition of we fighting each other, you know, and we have different kind of wars, we have different kind of racism, you know. So I'm saying I think the best option is to communicate, you know.
Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you so much for that perspective. We really appreciate it. And I can't say thank you enough. Thanks.
I say thank you to you.
Thank you.
And I'll take a picture with